So it's usually tangible items that I'm like, you really want that. So I remember at a mediation once, there was a wife who had not lived in the marital home for like 2 years or something, right? But she took her big stuff with her, but she left like a lot of little things like kitchen items, curtains, picture frames, like stuff like that. Stuff that you don't really care about. You can go to Home Goods or whatever, or at home and buy it for like $5. She totally forgot about it. But all of a sudden we're sitting in this mediation 2 years later, right, post filing, and she's like very concerned about these things. So I'm like, okay, what exactly do you want? She pulls out this list. And like in the list, guys, she had that she wanted the wedding photos. And I'm thinking, why the heck would you want wedding photos?
So she's going through a divorce and she wants the wedding.
Right. I'm like, girl, leave that over there. Like, what are you going to do with that, right? Like, burn it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the funny part about that was she had left some things in the bathroom. And so like on the list was nail polish. Like, I kid you not, guys, 2-year-old nail polish.
No way.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lawyers Uncensored. Today we have Leo, as usual, who is my co-host, and we have Christina Alvarez, who is a family attorney who practices family law in the state of Florida. And we would love to hear about whatever is happening in family law disputes. And also, we're going to cross some topics with business law as well on Leo's side and also into immigration. So stay tuned. Hi, Christina. How are you?
Hi, Amin. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hi, Leo. How are you?
Hey, guys. What's going on? It's so great to be here today. Christina, thanks for coming with us.
Yes, thank you so
today,
much for inviting.
us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming. So since you are a family attorney or divorce attorney, whatever they call it,
it's not always divorce,
it's exactly, that's why I was like,
let's get, let's have expectations here.
Family attorney is a better term, right?
Usually like family law attorney, right?
Okay. So what is exactly the whole thing about like family law and all of this? Like what do couples fight over? Like kids, custody, child support, businesses, money, pets. What exactly do people fight over?
They fight over all of that.
Wow.
All of it. I've seen all of it.
Can you rank whatever they fight over?
Can I rank whatever they fight over?
Or at least like tell me more about like what really matters to each one of them. Maybe it's different by gender. Maybe women fight over something that is completely different from men. I don't know, honestly. I've never been a divorce attorney, a family attorney. So you can go ahead.
So let me start by saying, when they say family law attorney, because like what Leo's saying, it's not just divorce. That is primarily what I do though, because that's the most common thing. But that also encompasses like prenups. Sometimes people aren't married, right? But they still want to have time sharing with their kids and establish child support. So that's called paternity. There's stuff that I do that's called like post-judgment. So like enforcing the actual court orders or agreements. So that's all encompassed in that. What do they fight over the most? Or I guess based on the clientele that I have, I would say the first thing they fight over is the kids for sure. And it's gotten a little harder, I could tell you, to do that because in the state of Florida, we do have what's called a presumption of 50-50 time sharing. Okay. So what I have to explain to my clients is, let's say that we can't agree to anything, right, at mediation. Yeah. Because that's the first step in the process of divorce in Orange County, and Seminole County, Osceola County, all the counties I practice in, is to go to mediation and try to come to an agreement. And if we can't do that, then we need to go to a hearing or a trial. And so I explain to my clients, the problem is as soon as I step foot in that courthouse and we are looking at that judge, the judge is like, explain to me why you guys should not do 50-50 or equal time sharing.
Okay. Because it's a presumption, so you have to rebut that presumption.
Right, yeah. Right. And so there are a couple of ways you can rebut the presumption. I mean, it is very hard to do, though, I will tell you. And that, has caused some issues, I would say, the last couple of years that the law has changed in that now, it's funny, like now I'm actually going to trials more often. You would think the opposite, like they're like deterred by that. Oh no, as soon as I walk in there, the judge is going to say 50-50. No, they're like, take me all the way to the trial. So a girl has been very busy in court and trials the last couple of years, I will tell you, more than I was before.
So do you think people like women ask for more custody or men ask for more custody? Like time sharing, if we're like using proper terms as whatever.
No, I don't really see a difference actually. I mean, so for me, I represent a lot of professional women. So
Okay.
I think that's a little bit different, right, from the stay-at-home mom. I do also represent stay-at-home moms. So, but the professional women, it's really interesting because the last couple of years, there's been a trend where they'll tell me, well, I'm working. I'm like, okay, great. I have this high earning career. I'm a doctor. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a real estate agent. You know, I do X, Y, Z. And they'll say, well, I'm working and I'm also the primary earner and I'm the higher earner. And I'm like, okay. And they say, well, on top of that, I also am doing everything for the kids. So basically we call it like a single married mom. And so they're funny, those clients, because they're like, oh no, he needs to get his 50%. So he can see what it's like to actually parent. And then they feel like relieved, right, of having to be the primary earner on top of the primary caretaker. And so that's a really interesting trend that I've seen happening over the last couple of years. It's been really different.
Well, so let me ask you something, because everybody knows I'm very passionate about dogs, and from my first podcast, it was like for reasons that I actually, and if you watch that podcast, I share
The biggest deal ever.
The biggest deal ever was
A rescue dog.
It was a dog I found abandoned, and I did an incredible business deal over a dog, and it's a whole story out behind that. It was a lot of fun, but. I'm just curious about like what are the things that people fight about that you say, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. Like what, obviously pets are a big issue to some people, me included. It was not part of a divorce, but I just want to say that, I can see why people would be passionate about their pets. But what's like the most absurd thing that you've ever had to listen to people fight about?
So it's usually tangible items that I'm like, you really want that. So I remember at a mediation once, there was a wife who had not lived in the marital home for like 2 years or something, right? But she took her big stuff with her, but she left like a lot of little things like kitchen items, curtains, picture frames, like stuff like that. Stuff that you don't really care about. You can go to Home Goods or whatever, or at home and buy it for like $5. She totally forgot about it. But all of a sudden we're sitting in this mediation 2 years later, right? Post filing. And she's like very concerned about these things. So I'm like, okay, what exactly do you want? She pulls out this list. And like in the list, guys, she had that she wanted the wedding photos. And I'm thinking, why the heck would you want wedding photos?
So she's going through a divorce and she wants the wedding.
Right. I'm like, girl, leave that over there. Like, what are you going to do with that, right? Like, burn it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the funny part about that was she had left some things in the bathroom. And so like on the list was nail polish. Like I kid you not, guys, 2-year-old nail polish.
No way.
And
Wow.
I remember looking at the mediator and I said, here's the thing. I will go to Ulta right now. Okay. I will go to the store right now and I will buy this woman
The same
nail polish because it is cheaper for me to go and buy her the $2 nail polish, right?
Then spend like
$5.
forever was
right. Then for my client to spend hundreds of dollars an hour, right, for me to negotiate over 2-year-old nail polish that probably isn't even good anymore.
Yeah.
And he didn't think that was funny. I thought it was funny.
But it is funny. I mean, like, if you're paying, like, if someone is paying, like, attorney fees over, like, hourly rate, it's not fair for them. Like, for some other, like, opposing person, whatever, to go ask for, like, a nail polish that is worth, like, $40.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's $5 a bottle, I think, at that time.
It's
I
a
don't
$1
know.
nail
I don't pay my
polish,
own nails.
probably.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's like I don't know. Somebody correct me, but I think it's like $5 to $8.
But you know what? That's actually, so there's like a concept in behavioral economics. They call this like attachment. So it's like maybe she was super attached to this nail polish, even though it doesn't have any price or whatever. That she used it maybe when she was happy in the past.
No, it's not that. He was concerned about the new girlfriend putting on the polish.
No, not even.
Not even
So she's just wasting his money.
She's just there. No. I think for them, sometimes it's like, how far and how low can I take this?
Okay.
Right? It's like about sticking it to him, you know?
Yeah.
And
like destroy him, damage.
well, and
whatever.
and how petty can I be? Like, let me be, I call it like Team Petty 1000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, you're on Team Petty 1000.
Yeah.
So yeah, how petty can I be? Because really what I'm angry about is maybe the way that it ended, or I thought I was going to get XYZ in the divorce, and I can see now that that's not what's going to happen, right?
Right.
So let me take something that's going to be so just petty, right?
Yeah,
Let me just take
yeah.
it so low that I make him angry over this one little thing, and then he feels the pain that I feel, I think is sometimes where they're coming from.
I
And it's
actually-
not just women. I just
Yeah.
want to be clear.
Oh,
It's
yeah, go
men
ahead.
do the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I see that in business deals too. People get into really petty stuff because they feel like, whose intellectual property is it really? You know what I mean? Like, oh, I created this idea, the concept, the business really started by me or whatever. So in that sense, I appreciate what you're saying because people are really, even to that, they really put their energy into that relationship, whether it's a business or a family relationship, and they want like appreciation for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
They want somebody like say, hey, you know what? It's over, but I acknowledge for the things that the good times we had in that relationship.
Yeah. So since you brought up business, so some people actually, especially couples who have like business agreements, operating agreements, and at the same time have prenups. So do you think that question is actually for both of you? So do you think like prenups protect more than operating agreements, or do you think operating agreements protect couples or anyone?
Well, I mean, look, I think,
and I just want to start a fight here. So.
yeah, no, it's not a fight. It's really interesting because Christina, of all things, coincidentally, Christina and I have been through several scenarios in the last 6 months where I turn to her and say, hey, hey, you shit that I just drafted on this document, is it only going to stick in family court? Because I really needed the thing to stick. So operating agreements, typically, the spouse, and male or female, doesn't matter, business, partners get together. And there's a provision in there, spousal consent, a joinder, and that basically, hey, all shit goes down in your relationship and your spouse gets awarded your shares in the company, then, the company's entitled to buy them back. And,
but if they agreed 50-50, that's not going to happen in the operating agreement.
No, because the partners, let's say, hypothetically, let's say 3 women run a business, okay? And they say, look, we love you, all 3 of you. We love our partnership. But, if any one of you guys get divorced and your spouse, your male husband, says that he wants to come into the business and be a partner in it and have a voice or whatever, like that's not going to happen because that person doesn't know anything about the business. So these are what the spousal consents are about, right? So you get this scenario is, hey, you get divorced and your spouse gets awarded those shares. We have a right to buy, the company has a right to buy back those shares. So then the question is the mechanisms for that. So, us, corporate lawyers, we get really crafty depending how we're representing. And so I turn to her and I say, Christina, like, okay, look, I just want to cram down the spouse and say, hey, you know what? We're just going to buy it for X price, or we're going to buy it, to these conditions. And that's where, Christina, basically says, hold on. This is what's really going to go down in family court.
Yeah, I had one situation, we were together on this case, and I said, do you think that my client can say in this operating agreement, she's getting divorced from her husband, in their new operating agreement post-divorce, right, that she could make any new wife sign a prenup because she didn't want to, God forbid, let's say he passes away, right? That happens in your line, right?
Yeah.
Passes away, right? Then what happens with his shares?
Yeah.
She didn't want to share a new bit of the business with the new wife. So we were kind of throwing around that creative a suggestion like, hey, well, in the operating agreement that you guys are going to sign post-divorce, make him get a prenup and say in this prenup that this new wife is not entitled to any portion of the former business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to basically, people have to be realistic too. If they've been passively reaping the benefits of this, or the company really needs to have an opportunity to buy it out. But, fair market value is really where it's at, right? I mean, because you can't just cram down a price just because that's what was agreed to, So I think that's what you're alluding to, right? That's what we need to figure out, right?
Yeah. So I actually have to push back here a little bit because sometimes actually the couple would have like a business agreement or an operating agreement between them. It's not like a third party is in the. So I'll be, like let's say the husband is called X and the wife is called Y. X and Y have an operating agreement, and they share all the protections, and they can basically agree on everything. Like, for example, what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen if some of them was deceased. in some sense, I actually see it somehow as a prenup if it's like between the couple. And I don't really understand the difference, like technical difference, because it's like this is an agreement and this is an agreement. And they can agree on whatever terms under an operating agreement, and they can agree on whatever terms under a prenup. So what legal differences would be there if, let's say, now we have both agreements, and let's say one and not the other, like operating agreement, not a prenup. So would that be a problem? Or let's say prenup, but not a business agreement, because now it's an LLC owned by both of them, and they have all the properties inside this LLC. They have everything in their lives under this LLC, because some like rich people, very rich people, usually like divide marriages into like LLCs, right? So it's like this LLC is for family one, this LLC is for family two after the divorce one, this LLC is for whatever. So yeah, I was just trying to push back here a little bit because it's kind of confusing.
That's the whole. So we talked about 3 different scenarios. So we're talking about a scenario where a spouse. Oh, this is where I started. Spouse has nothing to do with the business. Okay. And it's just a spouse with consent and joinder. She talked about a scenario where a spouse and husband are together, but the spouses are thinking, well, hey, you know, like we'll continue to be partners, but if anything happens to you,
I don't want your wife to be.
Yeah, your new wife,
Yeah,
whatever,
wife.
be my partner, or your husband to be my new partner. And your scenario is, hey,
Husband and wife.
You're already husband and my operating partner. You know, that's a very interesting question. I don't know if from a corporate point of view, I don't know. I don't know if a family court could challenge that operating agreement. What do you have any idea on that?
No. The family court doesn't have jurisdiction to challenge that. So that's why the prenup is important, because that's something that the family court can take jurisdiction of, right?
Okay.
And say, and I will tell you, at the time that we do these prenups, we're valuing that company present value. Right? So let's say it's worth, I don't know, let's go with $200,000 today as we sign the prenup. Whatever the terms are the terms. Yeah. You can't then just come back and say 5 years later down the road when you decide to get divorced, oh, I know that the company's worth $200,000 5 years ago when I signed this prenup, and now it's worth $4 million. And guess what? Now I want to shred up the prenup and I want my $2 million worth of equity, right? No, that's it.
Yeah.
That value is that value. And whatever you agree to in that prenup is agreed to in that prenup, unless, cautionary tale, if you decide to do the prenup by yourself, or you decide to do it with a paralegal, or you decide to do it with ChatGPT, which I have seen a lot in the last year or so. It drives me insane. So I've had people give me, and this is off topic, but I think people need to know this.
So did someone call you and said, can you please review this prenup? And it was like made by ChatGPT.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like flat out.
And he told you, or she told you that.
And this person had a lot of money.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
was
just
like,
trying to.
Trying to save like whatever.
So, what I tell them is literally just give her half your money now. It's just easier and cheaper. Like, what are you doing here talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Right? Like, if we're not going to do this the correct, right way to protect you now, and everything you're trying to accomplish, God forbid there is a divorce, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Just don't waste your time.
I hate the fact that people are relying on ChatGPT too much right now. And, it's not right in any way, because sometimes, as we talked about this last time, it's just like sometimes it gets them in a place that is not the right place, but it's so convincing that they would actually believe whatever it says to them. So they would, like a prenup, for example, and they can put it back to ChatGPT and ask it, like, can you evaluate this prenup? And it would be like, this is a 9.5 out of 10 prenup. As a lawyer, and you can actually ask ChatGPT to imagine scenarios, like if you're a lawyer right now, if you're like in court, if you're a judge, and you have a dispute before you, and this is a prenup, and I'm the husband or I'm the wife, can you please adjudicate this dispute and see who's gonna win? And it's all not right. Most of it is not right.
And I think it's important for people to know that it's not just about the document itself. It's about the process.
Right.
And how, so a lot of what goes into those prenups is the financial disclosures. And that is a very easy way to invalidate those prenups. Because somebody can say, oh, well, I didn't know he was worth $7 million when I signed this prenup. If I had known he was worth $7 million or she was worth $7 million, I would have made a different deal.
Yeah.
And so that's a really, really important part of executing these prenups, and also how they're executed. So I'm a psychopath. I tell my clients, you literally are going to go through what's called a financial colonoscopy. It is going to happen.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. You're going to be so mad at me, right? Because I'm going to see everything
Yeah, but that's good.
that you own, all of your debts, all of your income.
Yeah.
Like I want to know.
But they also say that you should have access. Like lately, I've been reading about this, especially in family disputes, that you would have access to even ChatGPT conversations of the spouse, of the opposing spouse, and discovery, and all of this. Is that true? Or-
I've never seen that.
Yeah. So it's like messaging, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Instagram messages.
So like you're
ChatGPT.
saying if somebody were to subpoena somebody else's ChatGPT
yeah,
account,
yeah. So I've heard that. I'm not sure if it's
they
true
would be able
or
to
not.
see everything that they've been asking
Yes,
ChatGPT.
and basically get this into the dispute between them before family court, and maybe argue some kind of like negative stuff about the other side to get more money out of them or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that brings me to the question that I raised last time. You know, like if you're relying on ChatGPT, are you actually cheating on your spouse?
What?
To do what? What are you relying on
Hey.
Well,
ChatGPT
remember
for?
that where we have this ongoing debate where
It's like maybe the companion, like the,
the
AI.
companion, right?
like
But
that movie,
the
not
yeah.
companion. So that's a great defense, right? Like,
but-
hey, you know,
yeah.
my spouse ignored me because all the advice they were getting was from ChatGPT. You know,
They don't. There's not. No. I mean, listen. It's even interesting. Even if you were cheating with ChatGPT, right? Like even if that was happening, right? Sorry to break it to you, everybody. Like Florida doesn't care.
Oh, okay, that's
People
good.
make a big deal about this.
Yeah.
They do. They're like, and he was cheating on me or she was cheating on me. I'm like, okay, well, did they spend money? Like, were there trips or gifts or dinners or things?
no, how about just emotional abandonment?
No, that's not a thing.
That's not a
That's
thing.
not a thing.
So
Wow.
that is
Not
a very important point. So if let's say someone cheated and didn't pay money for that cheating, not ChatGPT, like was a real person, that doesn't count.
It does. So
Okay.
that does count. And then actually is a new factor towards alimony as well. It didn't used to be there. That got
Okay.
changed a couple years ago too. But other than that, like the court doesn't really care because the court is family court is one of equity. So in the court's mind, they're thinking, okay, well, if he's spending or she's spending money on trips, gifts, and dinners and whatever lavish things for the other. How do you say that in English, Leo? I can't even.
You can
wanna
say it in
say, like,
Spanish. Don't worry about
Well,
it.
I had a
the
client.
sidekick.
No,
Let's
you're gonna
call it
die
the
over this.
sidekick.
I had a client. She was Venezuelan, and she used to say "la concubina," and I'd be like, "What is that?" Which is the It's a concubine.
Yeah.
I was
What
like,
is
"Damn,
that?
that's rough."
Like the lover on the side.
Like the
Oh, okay,
mistress.
okay,
But it's
okay.
like a
It's kind of
derogatory
interesting
term.
because it's in different cultures. They have that, and
Yeah.
I don't want to sound controversial, but like in French culture, what I read at least is that it's kind of accepted in society for married men to have mistresses on the side, and it's like that. That's the majority of.
So it's not a good argument in French court. But we're talking about.
I'm not sure about
We're
the
talking
French
about.
court.
We're talking about U.S. courts.
But it's interesting because like right now we're talking about like different cultural aspects of different societies.
Yeah,
and it's
sure, of
like
course.
everything is different, and like there are like some tribes that actually have no marriages whatsoever, and like they have to sit with each other and just be girlfriend and boyfriend forever, and that's it. They never heard of the term marriage, and some people would actually have other kind of like cultural aspects where they have to stay married whatever happens in life
Yeah.
until death does them apart, whatever. So it's like, what do you think about all of this kind of like cultural differences, and do you see them on like daily practice?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Wait, is there any that this matter in Florida courts? I guess is the question. Like, you really feel like people need to be educated about that too. You know, like, what do you think when people say, "Oh, he or she was cheating on me" or whatever? When do you set the record straight for them what they expect?
What I asked them is there financial damage to you, right? Because I get it, right? If he's or she's spending money, flying somebody all around the world, right? Yeah, that's money that was spent out of the marital estate that should be brought back into the marital pot, so to say, to be
Right.
divided. Definitely, for sure. Is it a factor for alimony? Yeah, for sure. But the emotional part of that, the court does not care. So they'll say to me, well, he was cheating on me or she was cheating on me, and because of that, I should receive what we call majority time sharing or sole parental responsibility, which means 100% time sharing of the kids. And I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with anything, right?
Yeah.
the judge doesn't
It's
care.
the best interest of the child.
Right,
most of
best
the time.
interest of the
Yeah.
kids. That has nothing to do with anything.
But it's fun. I'm sorry to interrupt you. So it's actually funny because usually during marriages, people fight for time without the kids. And it's like, can I have like a weekend abroad or whatever, and you stay with the kid and stuff like that. And then after they go through a divorce, everyone wants the kid so much. Now he or she is mine 100% of the time, and the other party is like, he or she is mine 100% of the time. So they fight over like time sharing after divorce. I feel like the fighting actually starts after they file for a divorce. It's not like when people are together. To some extent, I feel like, everyone is busy to some extent, where like they don't care about, this kind of like 70%, 100%, like, for example, it's like a responsibility as well. I mean, kids are beautiful, but like it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, yes, but okay.
Yeah.
But you're coming from the perspective of a professional person.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So maybe I have a different view on this because I'm so busy. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a mom. I'm a wife. I'm all the things. So I'm not just a mom and wife. Like I'm saying, I have a business. I got things going on right on the side. And so I think for people who are the primary caretaker, right, that does become their identity.
Right.
And that is a very hard job. Okay.
Of
It
course.
is so much easier
Yeah.
sometimes for me to go to work and argue over pots and pans and nail polish and
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
ridiculous thing than stay home with my daughter's 4 now. And she's so cute. I love her the most.
She is.
Thank you. And so is Mikey. And stay home with her, right? Because it's just a very challenging job. And so the stay-at-home moms, I will tell you, they have a really hard time. They have a really hard time with it. And I understand why. To some degrees, the divorce is like the death of a dream, right? I had this dream that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. I was going to give all my love and attention and care and all of my energy to these beautiful little people and help them go out into the world. And, my husband's going to be here supporting us, however, financially, emotionally, doing whatever his role is. And we're going to live this long, happy life together. Our kids are going to go off into the sunset when they turn 18 and aren't, in our culture, maybe 25. But, you get what I'm saying.
17.
No, yeah, right.
I'm joking.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. No, that's not happening.
No, definitely not. So,
Yeah.
but my kids at one point are going to be adults, and I will then be retiring or
Yeah.
to the next phase of my life with my spouse.
Everyone leaves. Yeah. So
I think for the women who don't have a skill to fall back on, at least, it is harder for them to then reframe themselves and find another identity outside of the home and the kids and their role in that marriage.
Yeah, but what about like regular women who are like half professionals, like most day-to-day life women? I think like they're working, but at the same time they're having like some kind of contributions towards the household, and it's like 50%, maybe 60%. It's usually more than
80%,
yeah. It's like 60,
90%.
70, 80%, 60, 70%. No, by the way, some dads are very involved in
Yeah.
in the raising of the
yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so
For sure.
So like let's say 50 up to 65% to be so what happens to those, like, because they have a professional career and sometimes they actually prioritize this over, let's say, the household itself, which basically means that it's not a death of a dream for them, because the dream was to be number one in professional life and at the same time to be number one in the household, which in my opinion, you can never be number one in all aspects of life.
No.
So you just have to be realistic a little bit. So that's kind of different, right?
So what are you saying in terms of maybe they don't want they are not seeking majority or sole time sharing as much as maybe somebody who doesn't have a career?
Yeah. Because the example that you gave a few minutes ago, the woman actually built her whole life on the motherhood and the household and all of this. So that makes perfect sense. Like, she would definitely fight over the kids, definitely, because they represent all her life. But for a woman who is like 60-40, it's like, maybe she can be richer, for example. Maybe she can will do whatever. So it's like maybe she should get like 60-40 custody as well instead of like 100% custody. And do they fight like this in court or not?
No, usually it does start with a 50-50. But listen, if either party wants to give up time sharing, or they don't want to have 50-50, which I have this a lot, right? Where they'll say to me, I work overnights, or I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. I got to be at work by 5 o'clock. I can't take the kids back and forth to school on an equal time sharing. Okay, no problem. They say, this is the most I can do. I can do every weekend or every other weekend, holidays, summers. Okay, great. Like if that's the agreement that you want to make, then that's what works best for you. But when they start to tell me, oh, I want, majority time sharing, and I'm like, okay, well, what's the reason? Oh, I just want it. That's not going to fly. That's not going to work.
Yeah. The thing is, and, I haven't been through a divorce myself, and having 2 kids from my first marriage, I can tell you right now, it is so hard at that moment to be rational about the decision you're making. It's really hard. And sometimes I think people need counseling in terms of what they really is best for them.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, I had a Tuesday and Thursday schedule and then every other weekend. And honestly, I remember being caught up in rush hour traffic and, like, being late most of the time for 6 o'clock to 8. And really, and honestly, 6 to 8 o'clock is like almost nothing, in a way. It's kind of crazy. And I know that things have changed because this goes back many years. But sometimes you have to be, like, more realistic about what your real life is, and is, any divorce and with children involved, I think is hard for anybody in any way. But I think somehow people need like counseling about coaching, about what's really best for the kids and best for them. And kids adjust faster than the parents. Is that a fair statement, do you think?
Oh, for sure.
Right?
For sure. And I wish that I wish it was a requirement that everybody does some kind of individual therapy while they're going through the divorce, especially if there are hot custody, we call it like high conflict. So high conflict issues. In the state of Florida, they do have to take a parenting course, but it's like online for a couple of hours. Click, right? Like,
right.
They're getting the information, I'm sure, and
It's
they're
like
learning
CLE and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. I'm sure there's value in it, right? I'm sure they're learning something, but they're not working on, like what you're saying, like being realistic, right, about their schedule. They're not working on selflessness, which you have to have a lot of when you have these tiny little people.
Right, yeah.
Right. Like, like what I was saying before about being spiteful, being petty, those are all things that I wish people would really work through or have a therapist for in the process of going through the divorce. Because I can tell the difference between my clients who do have a therapist ongoing while we're going through the process and my clients who don't.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Very much so, I can tell.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that, I want to basically thank you, Christina, for coming on our podcast. It's been really amazing having you here.
Yeah. So I just have a follow-up question regarding this therapy and all of this, because now some of my friends went through the process and all of this, and I'm actually, when you were speaking, I was thinking about some of them, and as opposed to some others. And it seems that some people are having very peaceful, agreements and divorce and all of this. And they even continue to have a very good relationship afterwards. And others are having very, very hard divorces. And I would say both of them would have kids. I believe the best interest of the child would definitely be was like peaceful divorces and all of this. And like some psychologists and psychiatrists say that divorce is in itself bad. Others say not really. It's not the divorce itself. It's how it's happening. If it's actually happening in a peaceful manner and they're like respectful to each other as parents in front of the kid, then it's definitely not affecting the kid as much as someone else who is actually shouting at their ex-wife or a wife shouting at her ex-husband all the time and saying to the kid, this was like the worst person I've ever known in my life or whatever. But I feel like it eventually boils down to feeling of self-worth, in my opinion, because it's like if someone is knows their self-worth, no matter what happens in life, if they lost, they know that they shouldn't take it personally in terms of anything, like life happens. And sometimes it's beyond people. Like they try their best, but it doesn't work out. Sometimes they try their best and it works out and it's amazing and whatever. Sometimes they go through counseling and it goes through the process and they end up being married forever. Sometimes they go through counseling and they end up being divorced. So when you go to court, so I'm just giving a lot of introduction here, but like when you go to court, does any of this actually get into the arguments before the judge and about like this time sharing, about the 50-50 whatever, or the equitable distribution? I don't know if Florida is an equitable distribution state. Okay.
So that comes into play with the best interest of the children factors. And one of the factors is the ability of the other parent to maintain or foster a relationship with the other parent. So like basically, like what you're saying, are they telling the kids mom or dad is the worst person ever? Don't talk to them. Don't smile when you're with them. If they give you a toy or like pay for your college, like they're still the worst. Don't ever, love them. You got to be on my side kind of thing. So we got like a meaningful relationship. So that's one of the things that comes out, right? So if you are doing these things and you are caught doing these things or they have evidence of it, right? That's going right in, because I'm thinking, well, they shouldn't have majority time sharing, because look what they're going to do. They're going to basically call parental alienation. They're going to alienate that kid from the other parent. Look at all this conduct that's happening during the divorce. Once the court is kind of out of this and the divorce is over, it's just going to get worse.
Right.
So yes, that is something that does come up. One of the things I tell the clients when I see all this, right, is I tell them, I understand, like maybe the kids are young now, right? They're elementary school age or even middle school. Like one day you guys will be grandparents, hopefully, right? If that happens, okay, great. You will be grandparents. And then what then? What do you plan to do? You plan to say, oh, you know what? At 12 o'clock on Christmas, I'm going to come over and then she's going to leave. Like, no, nobody wants to deal with that. Especially, I'm going to just speak for our generation. I'm a millennial. Like, we don't want to deal with it. Yeah. Like, you guys figure it out. I don't know. I have my own family now. And I want my children to feel comfortable, and I don't want them to feel like this tug and pull and, I don't want to make grandma mad or grandpa mad. Like, no, we're not doing that. So I caution them to think about that and what that's going to look like for them. And then, other events, right? Like graduation is going to happen. Like, how's that going to work?
Yeah.
I mean, like everyone is going to appear up.
Yeah. Weddings.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I've actually been in
Leo, give us some life experience.
Yeah, no, life experience. No,
you've been silent for the past 5 minutes.
When you said that, I just remember now that I was at a funeral a few years ago where the ex-wife got a private viewing of the deceased. I swear to you, a private viewing of the deceased. I don't know the details. Maybe included in his will that the ex-wife would be able to see private viewing of his casket. But yeah, true story, private viewing at the funeral. So yeah, that was kind of bizarre. But I lived a little longer than some of you guys and you guys all. But actually, the comment I wanted to ask you about, Amin, is like, okay, so you're representing immigration clients and stuff. Like, hey, what happens when they get divorced and the spouse says, hey, I'm going back to my home country, and they got kids? Like, what?
Yeah. So it's a bit complicated when it comes to immigration. So whenever someone actually talks to me about immigration and they're in the process of divorce, first I have to ask them, are you having a green card, or are you in the process of obtaining a green card based on that marriage or not? And if the answer is yes, then I have to basically ask him or her to just pause whatever process they have in mind until they get the green card, and then they can start whatever. So, funny story, but I'm not going to let a lot of details out. Basically, some examples, general examples. Someone would be married to someone else, and like male, female, of course, and not of course, which that was the marriage. And then afterwards, he or she would discover that the other person is gay, for example. So that happened. That happened before. And
I mean, it happens all the time.
yeah, exactly.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So I was like, so you've been together for like 2
This
years,
is my life every day.
and like, okay, and so I had to pause for like, yeah, for like 10, 15, 20 minutes and think about the whole situation, and then returned back to him via email and said, honestly, you just have to keep going with whatever marriage you have, because you're gonna get the green
just
card.
pretend, okay, that you do not like the same sex. All right, let's just keep the charade going.
Exactly.
How long can we get the
So
charade?
So
long
he
can we
or
keep
she
it
was
going?
actually straight, but was the other side that was not.
Yeah.
So the other side
Yeah.
was actually gay or lesbian, whatever. But the one who's talking to me was the straight person. So he had no idea. But then it turned out like, okay, now we have someone in my. So basically, he thinks like, should I file for divorce right now because my spouse is gay? And I'm like, gay or not, you just have to keep going, because otherwise you'll just be deported,
Yeah.
Because
What a
if
hard
that
situation to
other
be in.
exactly, so the other person is a U.S. citizen, and he or she was not a U.S. citizen, so they have to be patient for a little while, like a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years, because USCIS is always delayed in adjudications and all of this backlog and stuff. So they have to keep going with their lives, whatever that life means,
Yeah.
and whatever happens in life. And they reach back to me and say basically, is it okay now? I have to say no. You have to pause. You haven't got the green card yet. Whenever you have it in hand, you can do whatever. And then I refer him to someone who is a family attorney, and or her to someone who's a family attorney, and then they can do whatever they want. But for your question, you were asking about someone leaving the country.
Yeah, because I mean,
Which-
I
yeah.
mean, like, besides
happens
dogs,
all the
my
time, by
second
the way.
priority is kids,
Yeah.
right?
So that happens all
my
the
wife
time.
would kill me for saying this, but yeah, no, my kids are first. But I'm just wondering. For Christina, you're an immigrant that wants to leave and just give up their visa, let's say, and they want to take the kids.
Yeah.
Like, they want to take the kids with them. Like, what happens?
So they usually never leave on a visa. So they get the green card, they get the U.S. passport, and then they actually try to leave with a kid.
Okay.
And because they think that once they leave back to their home country, no one is ever going to catch them. They think about it. And I actually had someone asking me that question, and I told her or him to go ask a family attorney. But basically, in international law, what I can remember is you have some mechanism where you can actually pursue people outside of the country.
The Hague Convention.
Yeah.
If that country is part of the Hague Convention, that's a big no-no for them to do that.
Interesting.
Which is most countries, I think.
Right, most countries.
Yeah.
There's very little countries.
Yeah.
I've actually looked up who's not in the Hague Convention because I was curious one day. Because I'm thinking, well, what if one of my clients is smart about this, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
well, Djibouti, I
Yeah.
guess is one of them. Djibouti is not in the Hague Convention, so like I'm just going to go to Djibouti. I mean, listen, not a bad idea, I guess, if you don't like your parent, your co-parent.
Djibouti.
But I think it was one of the non-Hague countries.
Wow.
That's the top of my head. I'm not 100% sure.
But then there's a second. So because I used to do a lot of international law in the past, at least in terms of scholarship. So there's a reciprocity. So if the prosecutorial system in the U.S. is having an agreement with the prosecutorial system in Djibouti, for example, even if they don't have any kind of international treaty, they would actually have to do this on a reciprocal basis.
So what, like a kidnapping?
Yeah, exactly. So if they count this as a kidnapping in Djibouti, and they counted this as kidnapping in the U.S., they would actually extradite the person back to the U.S.
Very
And
interesting.
because I was, in the past I was a prosecutor too, so we had some kind of these scenarios where people actually, especially from Africa, like kidnapped the kid and left the country and came to Egypt and claimed for asylum, and they stayed in Egypt, and we'd be like, what can we do about this? And we had to we have to refer the whole case to the extraditing team, which basically follows the reciprocal protocol, whatever, between Egypt and this African country, and we have to communicate with the prosecutorial office back in the country and tell them we have someone, and that someone is actually reported, and usually it's reported in the home country. So we would get an email or a message. Usually it's written, and it takes like 4 or 5 months to get to the office. But basically it says that someone is reporting in a police report that this kid is kidnapped, and now he is in Egypt, and that message is coming from another country. Yeah.
Wow, those are tough situations. Let me
Right.
tell you, that's really tough. And and to both of you, I mean, you on the immigration side, and Christina, obviously on the family law side, those are things that I think extremely challenging. And obviously the kids get caught up between all this mess. Hopefully in their minds they're like on vacation. I don't know what to think, but yeah, that's a really challenging point. And I hope you guys are both there to help address these situations in the right way and help these kids through that process. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's,
Immigration is a bit tough because you cannot actually contain it in a way. So it's like it's a part international law, but it's a part of national law, and it's not really national law. It's really like national security to some extent. And at the same time, it's humanitarian. At the same time, it's covered by international treaties. And at the same time, it's everyone says something different about whatever is going on. And at the same time, you have executive orders, and you have a different level of legislations like the INA Act, and then you have a different level of let's say statements issued by different government agencies. And you have to look at all of this in the process, because that is always changing every day. And also it's like we have legals. So people are like legals and versus illegals. But that's not really the case. We have like multiple gray areas. So someone who is legal, who entered the country legally and then applied on time and waited for the agency, the immigration agency, to reply back to adjudicate whatever, let's say asylum application, or EB2 and or whatever. And they haven't decided that application. So they keep extending their statuses every time. And if one of them was not decided on time, they would be out of status. So they would actually turn from legal to illegal, which is actually covered in the INA Act, which is falling out of status for no fault of your own. But then the agency never acknowledges any fault. So it's like, now
That's
you
crazy.
you have someone who is trying their best to maintain status, but eventually they fall out of status and they say, well, we can't do anything about it. Now, you're just an illegal.
Yeah, too bad.
Yeah, that's it. And you have some people who, let's say, were granted status, and then the status was revoked. So they left was like 30 days to see what's going to happen. And they go to an immigration attorney, and let's say they talk to me, and I have to tell them the bad news. There's nothing to do about this. So you have to leave. They'll be like, my kids are in school, whatever. So that happens all the time too. But we have, like, just for like to be accurate when it comes to law and stuff, we have lawful immigration status. We have lawful non-immigrant status, which is different from lawful immigration status. And we have legal authorization to stay in the U.S., which is different from lawful immigration status and lawful non-immigrant status. And each status is completely different when it comes to what you can do. So someone would actually be able to get a green card based on a lawful immigrant status and a lawful non-immigrant status, but not based on a legal authorization to stay in the U.S. And in other scenarios, someone would actually be able to get a green card based on legal authorization to stay. So it's like there's a lot of gray area. There are a lot of gray areas in the immigration law, where it's not as simple as this person is legal versus this person is illegal. This is way larger than the fact that people are some like legals versus illegals.
I guess in that context, Christina, what do you see in family law, immigration status coming up as an issue?
This is really hard for me because I have a case right now that is very sensitive, and I have to be very careful about what I put in those pleadings, because my my situation is my client, they're afraid. They're afraid to get deported. They're afraid to get picked up by ICE. But there's a very important situation at hand that, it has to deal with their family. And I actually just filed a motion to enjoin from one of the child leaving the country, because that's a whole thing. That got ordered, so I can talk about that's public record. And that's been very, very, I will tell you, that's been really hard for me, especially with the women. And they come forward and they say, well, I'm being abused physically, usually, or threatened against my life. And, I don't really want to file a domestic violence injunction because I'm afraid I don't have status in this country. And I'm afraid if I go there,
Right.
I'm going to get deported. I'm going to get picked up right there in family court. And that's not a thing that I used to worry about. So you guys know,
Yeah.
never. Now
So
I'm very careful.
I have to, that happens all the time when it comes to immigration statuses, and people do not understand this. So I had someone who was actually working like 14 hours at a very famous resort here in Orlando, without mentioning names. And that person was actually, so I talked to our employment attorney, for example, and he said probably like there's like a lot of breaches here when it comes to employment law, but like when it comes to immigration, can you tell me more about this? And I said, well, she cannot pursue any of those employment allegations, because once she does, she's going to be deported right away, because and I'm sorry to say this, but she is enslaved by the employer in a way that if she said anything, she's going to be out of the country.
Right.
She's on a work visa? What's she on?
It's like was an exchange visa,
Okay.
but she would have to actually work all the time. And funny enough, it's actually against what the government says. So the employer is actually breaching what the Department of State is saying and what the regulations is saying. So, for example, they say you have to report if an employer is abusing someone on this visa to the Department of State by allowing them to work for more than 40 hours a week. She was working like 70, 80 hours a week, and she was getting paid lesser than everyone else and all of this. And that was actually eligible for a report. But what happens if she reported?
Yeah.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
like the sponsor, because the employer is the sponsor of this kind of exchange program. She's going to be out of the country right away. So she reached out to me, and I was like going back to divorces and all of this. So whatever shitty situation you are in, just stay in it until you maintain your status. Until you get status. Otherwise, you're just gonna lose your status. You're just gonna lose the whole thing. You're gonna stay here for like 4 or 5 years waiting for some papers to get through, and end up losing your papers, and also getting divorced, and also losing your money, and also probably losing your job, and all of this.
Yeah. There's a lot at stake. It's interesting with these like these humanitarian areas of the law, like you and I do. I mean, I guess I have a question for you. Is like, why did you choose? There's so many things we could do, right?
Yeah.
We could be real estate attorneys. We could be, I don't know. There's like animal law attorneys apparently. I'm like, well, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
There's so many different areas you could choose to specialize in. Why did you choose to do immigration? And then I had the same question for you, Leo. Like, why business?
Okay. Yeah. So I chose immigration honestly because I felt that it's very important for both the applicants and for the country itself. And I'm probably one of the few attorneys who would say this. The U.S. is an immigrant country, and it became the greatest country in the world based on having flows of very brilliant immigrants across. People do not know the history of immigration, unfortunately. So before the 1800s, for example, the people arrived on a ship and they just came here. If someone didn't have a disease, they would just get in and get the green card right away. You know, as simple as that.
It's like an Ellis Island
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, exactly, in Ellis Island. So, and then it progressed, and like we had laws, and then the laws progressed, and all of this happened. But eventually, what I really care about is seeing someone who is brilliant, because I do business immigration and employment-based immigration. Seeing someone who's brilliant, bringing that brilliance to the U.S., and at the same time, him or her benefiting from whatever the U.S. has to offer them. And it felt so profound. And honestly, I tried criminal law, to be a defense attorney in the past. And sometimes it's like a moral dilemma for some reason, because you're like, should I represent that person or not? I know that they did it and stuff like that. But when it comes to immigrants, it's like they didn't do anything. They're just like they're brilliant people, especially again employment-based immigration and stuff like that. Someone with amazing credentials. It's like an engineer who has patents and whatever. So why not bring this person into the U.S.? And I felt so passionate about the whole thing and helping others. And it started with actually helping family and friends of friends. And then everyone was talking about the whole thing to other people, and the word of mouth spread so fast. And I was like handling too many cases, and I couldn't handle them. And that's how actually it started. It's just like it was outside of my control to some extent. It was beyond my control what happened. I was just like trying to help some people, but that help kind of expanded over time. And what I'm really after, because everyone is actually asking me this question from in different places, is expanding to help more people. And that's it. Like, people think about business in terms of like making more money or profits or whatever. But what really matters is if you're expanding and providing quality service to more people, that's what business is about. It's not really about like making a huge empire or whatever. It's not in the money itself. It's about providing that quality service instead of like to 2 people to 5,000 people. And that's what I'm after.
Love.
Yeah.
Well, before I answer, I'm going to make sure that you give the same response as to why you got into family law. But I want to basically, so just make sure you get to that point. But I want to, it's interesting that I'm not sure too many people have asked me that question, and I appreciate that question, because I really, I was an entrepreneur when I was 10 years old. I had my own business. I had people working for me when I was 12. And I was crazy.
We want to know what the business is.
Yeah, I've been filing tax returns since I was 12 years old. Legitimately, I've been filing tax returns. I maxed out on my Social Security many years ago. It was really crazy. But I love the fact that in this country, that if you have a passion for an idea, you have a new concept or something, you can literally make that thing go forward and create that opportunity. So I went to law school because I just really wanted to work with entrepreneurs and help people out in their business and help them grow and help them be progressively getting, and moving forward. Because I realized also too, some people have much greater, much bigger ideas than I have that could be very fruitful. And so as a lawyer, I've seen like every day, every other day, I see something like, wow, why didn't I think of that? Why did I think of that? Like, that's crazy, right? Like, that's amazing. Like, let's move it forward. Let's figure out how it can help you move that idea forward. And that's what I do. I represent the entrepreneur, and I'm passionate about that.
I love that answer.
And you, Christina, tell me about you.
So for me, I wanted to be able to have like a direct impact on people's lives. I feel to a certain extent that, for better, for worse, right? Lawyers can be very stiff and very technical in the way that they handle clients. And I saw that there was a need for somebody to be represented in a way that was compassionate and relatable. So for me, for instance, like I try to come off as a person first. I don't just hit them with a bunch of like legalese, because they're like, okay, emotion, great. I don't know what the hell that is. Like, what is that? And so I wanted to make sure that they felt like there was somebody accessible for them that was empathizing with their situation, and I wanted to bring peace to families. It really does upset me, I will tell you, to a very large degree, and to the point where I'm just going to be very vulnerable in this podcast. It makes me like sick the next day, like physically ill. When I see all of this conflict and all of this fighting over nothing, right? Like, especially when there are kids involved. And so I felt like for me, it was important to go into this area of law and try to show people a different way of, like what Amin was saying, a different way of getting divorced and still being able to, you're still a family, right? Just because, you're not a Mr. and a Miss anymore, it doesn't mean you're not a family, especially if you have children.
Yeah.
So you're still a family, we still have to think about those things, and there's a way to go forward in that and not bring more, for lack of better words, more trauma, right, to the next generation so that they pass it to their kids and their kids. Like, it has to stop at some point. And I think that was very important for me, right, for there to be, for the clients to see that there is a different way. And so it's funny that I'm going to court so much right now. Like, I've been going all year, guys, all year, because that wasn't what was happening for me before, right? I am very good at settling cases, and I am very good, I will tell you, at making people see the realities of things and coming down to meeting them where they're at in the situation, to be like, I understand you. And I fully do. I'm not just saying that to BS them. I get where you're coming from, but like, please think about the future and what's going to happen from here on out. Like, that's what you're doing this for, right? To have a better future, not to stay in this boat of spitefulness and pettiness and, he did this to me and she did that to me. No, like, we're trying to move forward. So think about that. And so I feel really grateful that I've been able to do that. I think so far, I really do love what I do. It's hard. Like I said, to the fact where sometimes I get so sick, and those are really hard days for me, I will tell you. But, I just think about all of the families that I've helped and my team has helped, and all the families that I still hope to help and to bring like a different way of settling, of conflict, of divorcing. Yeah.
I think some people say that is a part of your role is about like therapeutic. It's like you're a therapist in some way, because you're listening to a lot of drama from both sides, and you're trying to actually make them listen to each other. And it's very difficult to listen when people are shouting to each other. So honestly, I can't do whatever you do.
Well, they say like the secondary trauma. I don't know if you've heard that. I'm sure it's a thing in immigration. Immigration attorneys.
Well, immigration is all trauma. Honestly, it's like in the U.S. Otherwise, it's not really a trauma, because in Canada you can get the green card in 6 months. It's an express entry based on your points. So if you're like an accomplished lawyer, you apply, you get the green card in 6-7 months. And you stay there for 5 years, and you get the citizenship.
Law school does a really bad job of those of us who are going into these humanitarian, like direct client-facing roles. They do a really bad job of preparing us for that. Yeah. Because trying to stay with my client and stay present with them and empathize with their feelings, but not absorb it all, was a skill I had to learn over years. And like, yes, every once in a while, it does still affect me, and I will get to the point of being sick, but it doesn't happen to me as often as it used to. And I really wish that was something that law school prepared us more for, is like actually dealing with the emotions of the client. If you're going to go into something that you deal with the clients every day, right?
Yeah. Law schools is not, go ahead.
I want to say that, look, I welcome you coming here, because I think your candidness about that is really important. And myself, having gone through a divorce, and I'm not saying this for the sense of having had the upper hand, but I really wish my ex-wife had hired a lawyer like you. And she actually had somebody like you that had compassion for the circumstances, and maybe somebody could have drilled into my head that maybe, the Tuesday, Thursday arrangement was not
great for you.
Was not realistic. Was not realistic. But I think that the personality of a lawyer makes a big difference. So I applaud you. I applaud you for what you're trying to do. And I really applaud you for the fact that at the end of the day, it may seem frustrating and challenging for you, the way you contribute to those people's lives. And trust me on this. Sometimes I think even the opposing side or the counterpart to your transaction or your matter or whatever, the spouse, might be more appreciative of what you do for them than the actual lawyer representing them.
Right. Yeah.
So I want to really, I think from Amin and I, we're extremely grateful for you joining us because you've kind of like shed some light, a lot of light into the family law aspects and how it relates to both immigration and business. And thank you, Christina, for coming on board, and look forward to working on it with you in the future.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, hey, folks, I want to really thank you, everybody, for joining Lawyers Uncensored today. And I hope you subscribe. And I want to thank Christina for joining us. It's been a wonderful experience. And thank you so much for being part of this podcast.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. It's been really, really fun and very interesting.
Yeah.
I
Thank
learned a
you,
lot.
Christina. By the way, Christina is a divorce attorney, family attorney.
Family
Family
attorney.
law attorney.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. All right. Well, and we'll let everybody know how they can get a hold of her. She's a Florida practicing lawyer, very successful and a good friend to both Amin and I. And hope that you reach out to her if you have family law needs. And so, yeah, thank you so much, people.